Hi guys, if you have high interest debt, this video is definitely for you. After watching this video, you will have a better understanding of the true cost of debt. You will also have a better understanding of strategies that you can use to pay off your debt and the opportunity cost for having debt, as well as how your wealth building journey will look like if you do not have any debt or if you have paid off your debt and have started investing. When it comes to tackling your debt, there are some actions that you need to take. And the first action is getting to know your debt. Create a list so that you have a better understanding of the debt that you have. Now, in this list that you are creating, you can actually make a table. So indicate the type of debts that you have. And in that same table, also indicate the balances on each type of debt. Indicate the interest rate that you are being charged for having that debt, the minimum or the monthly payment that you are expected to make on the debt, as well as the term of each debt. As an example, in this table we have an example of somebody who has these 4 different types of debt. They have a personal loan which has a balance of 40,000 with an interest rate of 27% and a minimum payment of 300 rands with a term of 36 months. Then we have a credit card where they are owing a balance of 25,000 at 25% and they make a minimum payment of 200 with the same term of 36 months. Then the third loan that we have is a loan shark, which is 20,000 rands at 35% interest rate, and the minimum here is 500. The term is similar to the other loans. And the last one is a credit card that has a balance of 12,000 with a 20% interest rate and a minimum payment of 600 per month, and it also has the same term of 36 months. So with a table like this, you actually have a better picture of how your debt looks like. You have all the debts that are listed. In this case, we have 4 different types of debt that are listed. And here you can clearly see what are the balances on each, what are the interest rates on each, what are the minimum payments on each, and the terms, as well as the combined amount that is being paid off each month, which is now there 1,600 is the total for the minimum payments for each of the 4 different debts that we have. The second action that one is to take when it comes to their debt is actually to understand the cost of their debt. How much are they actually paying towards this debt? And here we want to make sure that we are running some of our numbers. If you look at the table that I have displayed, you can see that over a period of 36 months, of which in our example we are making minimum payments of 1,600 a month for all our 4 debt. When you look at the debt type, for each we have indicated how much you pay in those 36 months and how much interest you are paying on each over the 36 months. And if you look at the total, you have a total of more than 140,000 rands that are paid within the period of 36 months for all those 4 debts. And if you look at the interest rate that is being paid over the period of 36 months, is actually 43,644 rands or Namibian dollars. So it is quite a big chunk of money that is going to interest. When you look at the summary in this table, you can clearly see that 43,000 or more than 43,000 is actually being paid in interest for the period of 36 months on all those 4 debts that we have listed in our first table. And that is almost 50,000 gone within a period of 36 months just so that you can service that debt. And if you look at the total of over 140,000 which is being paid for all that debt, the interest is nearly 45% of that total amount that is being paid. So it is quite high. Almost half of that money is being paid in interest. The third action to take is to choose a debt payoff strategy. So this is now where you are making a plan on how to pay off debt. And as I have said in previous videos, you actually have 2 recommended options when it comes to paying off debt. The first one is the snowball method, where we are ranking our debt from the one with the highest balance or the highest amount to the lowest one, and we tackle the highest amount first and we move down our list. While on the other hand, we also have the debt avalanche method, and with the avalanche method we are listing our debt from the highest interest to the one with the lowest interest, and then we tackle the highest interest first, moving down our list until we are done with the one with the lowest interest. Now, like I always say, when it comes to high interest debt, because in this example or in this discussion we are looking at high interest debt, with high interest debt we want to use the debt avalanche method so that we can tackle the highest interest first and move down on our list. So the strategy we are going to employ now for our example is the debt avalanche method. One of the things that we want to do together with our debt avalanche method is to find additional funds that we can add to our minimum payment for our highest interest debt. So we are going to focus on adding an extra 400, either from cutting on some expenses or having a small side hustle. We have an additional 400 a month that we are adding, so that instead of paying 1,600 a month on all our 4 debts, we then pay 2,000. So we add an additional 400, and that 400 will go towards our first debt which we are paying off, which is the highest one. With this strategy, we are going to pay an additional amount, which is 400 on our highest interest debt, while we are paying minimums on the other debts, and we wait to finish the highest interest debt first before we can move on to the next one, whereby we are freeing up at least $900 which we're paying towards that first debt that is freed up to go to the next one, and then the next one and the next one. So if we look at our debt payoff table, the first debt that we are paying off according to the order on our table is the loan shark. So we are paying off the loan shark first, and the reason we are paying it off first is because it's the highest interest debt that we have. Out of all the 4 debts, which is standing at 35% interest that we are being charged. So the action here is that instead of paying now the 500, since we said we are increasing our debt repayment with an additional 400, we are now going to be paying a 400 extra, which will make the payment of this debt 900 a month, which will go towards tackling this high interest debt. Then when we are done with our loan shark loan, then we'll move to the next debt, which is our personal loan, which is standing at 27%. So the 900 that we were paying towards the loan shark, we are now going to target it towards the personal loan, which is the next debt with the highest interest. So that will now be the minimum of 300 plus the 900 that we were paying on that debt. And then when we are done, we will move on to the next highest, which is the credit card, which is standing at 25%. And then the last one that we will tackle is the store card, which is sitting at 20% interest. So as a result, with this strategy, there are 3 things that will happen. The first thing is that we are going to reduce the number of months that it takes us to pay off this debt. Instead of the 36 months, it will now be either 30 to 32 months that we are paying off the debt. So there is a reduction in the number of months because of the strategy that we have employed. The second thing is that because of that strategy, we are also saving a lot of money in interest. And this is between 12,000 to 15,000 that is being saved in interest. And the third thing that will happen is that because you have now used this strategy, you are able now to gain momentum, especially after you have paid off your first high interest debt and you are able to move on to the next one and free up more money to cover the next one. You are more motivated and you have built momentum to actually crush these debts, and then in no time you will actually be debt free. So again, to our order of attack, we said we tackle first the loan shark, which is the highest interest debt at 35%. Then we kill that interest fast. Then we move to the next highest, which is the personal loan. And after we are done with the personal loan, we move on to the credit card, which is the next highest. After that, then we tackle the store card. And the store card here is the one with the lowest interest rate for us. And remember that even with that order of payment, while you are tackling the highest interest debt and you are paying extra in that debt, you will still continue to pay the minimums on the other debts. So you don't default or leave the other debts while you are paying off the highest one. You just prioritize to ensure that The additional money you are putting it towards the highest interest debt first so that you can tackle it faster. Then you can move on to the next one and the next one. But at the same time, you are also maintaining minimums on your other debts. The third action that one needs to take is to track your debt. It is important to track your debt because it actually gives you a good picture of what is happening with your debt, and it also serves as a motivation because you are able to see now how you are moving, how you are reducing it month by month, month by month. It is actually a motivator for you to keep going. You can clearly see that you are not going backwards. You can clearly see that you are not stagnant, but you are making progress. Even if the progress looks like it's not much, it's actually a good thing to see how you are doing on a month-to-month basis while you are busy tackling your debts. So to track your debt, you can either use an app. If you have access to an app that allows you to track your debt, please do use that. But in the absence of an app, we can use Excel sheets. And if you are in need of a template, there is a free template for credit tracker on my website that you can actually use to assist you to track your credit. The fourth action to take is to avoid any new debt. I cannot stress this enough. There are so many people that are always out looking for new debt. You already have 4 different debts, for example, or you have 3 or whatever the number that you have. You want to avoid taking on more. It's just more strain that you are adding to your finances and more stress that you are inviting in your life. So as much as possible, please avoid taking on new debt while you are tackling your current debt. And if you really need to take on new debt, consider consolidating all your loans. Then maybe you go to one provider, maybe it's your bank, they take over all those loans and then you only pay one installment to one provider whereby all those debts are covered. But of course, do your research, what consolidation means and what are the pros and cons of consolidation. It might not be the best for everybody, but have a look at what is possible, because sometimes maybe you don't have an emergency fund, even though you already have so much debt. Something happens, but you don't have an emergency fund and you don't have somebody to assist you. So you might be forced to really take on new debt. Even though it's not advisable, we have to be realistic. Life happens. So you might want to consider then consolidating so that you don't have to deal with 5 or 6 different providers and so much interest. It might work out best for you to consolidate. But like I said, have a look at your situation, look at the pros and cons, and then you can decide whether consolidation is for you or not. Action number 5 is to understand the opportunity cost. We have run a little bit of numbers earlier, but with opportunity cost, we want to go deeper to see what am I losing by being in debt. By keeping this debt, what am I losing in terms of my finances? So if you invested the same amount that you are now currently paying on debt, we stay with our example of the 4 debts that we have, where we are paying now the 1,600 minimums, and we are not using our additional 400 here to look at this table. If you are contributing a 1,600 Namibia dollars or rands every month into an investment for 36 months, and you are lucky enough to have an average return of 8%, and we are being very generous with the 8%. If that is compounded monthly, you are looking at having 62,000 rands or 62,000 Namibian dollars invested, compounded by the time the 36 months is over. What this table tells us is that if we do not need to put the 1,600 a month into paying off debt, and we instead used that money to invest, then we are looking at having about 62,000 rands or 62,000 Namibian dollars invested if we have a return of 8%. A lot of money market accounts are returning between 7% to 8%. There are some that are doing much less, but like I said, the 8% we are being quite generous. Even if it was less than that, it will still be a lot of money that you have invested and put away instead of putting it towards debt. So that debt is costing us that $62,000 that we could have put towards our wealth building, that we could have put towards our savings and investments, that we could have put towards our emergency funds, so that we do not have issues when we have our emergencies. And then if we look further at the breakdown of the opportunity cost, the total amount of interest that you pay on these debts that we have, the 4 debts that we have, 43,644 Namibian dollars or rents. And the gains that you have missed from investing that money is 4,400. So your actual opportunity cost is 48,000. And like I said earlier, this is nearly 50,000 that you are giving away in a period of 36 months. That could have grown your emergency fund. That could have grown your wealth because you are in a wealth building stage. That could have gone towards your investment. It could have funded your life goals. Maybe you wanted to start a business, or maybe you wanted to fund your studies, or something else that is important. Maybe it's a down payment to your vehicle or a down payment to your house. You have literally given this money away to all these loan providers of the debts that you have taken out. The next action when it comes to our debt is actually to look at the bigger picture. Look at how does me carrying this debt affect me long term? How will life look like if I have gotten out of debt and I started investing my money instead? Because it's important to have a bigger picture so that you clearly understand what am I missing out on and what am I really losing in the long run. Not just in the 36 months that we are dealing with in terms of the debt, but beyond the 36 months, how do things look like if you didn't have debt, or if you had debt but then you quickly got rid of the debt and you started investing. Using our strategy of paying extra into our debt, when you do that, you actually get out of debt faster, because we are reducing the number of months that we are paying off that debt from 36 to 30 to 32. And we are saving money on interest, which is up to 15,000 over the 36 months that is being saved in interest. And one can actually start investing. Once you have done that, you can actually start investing and start growing your wealth and start building your emergency funds if you don't already have one. So you are able to get to financial stability faster and eventually grow your journey towards financial freedom or financial independence. That is now what you can get out of paying extra into your debt. But if you only remain with the minimum payments on your debts, it means you stay in debt longer, you don't save any money on interest, you don't reduce the number of months that you are paying off that debt, and you miss out on opportunities for you to save and opportunities for you to invest. And on top of that, you lose more than 43,000, which goes towards all the interest that you have to pay. And all of these things are actually things that are just delaying your wealth building process. You will not build wealth while you have debt that is dragging you down. So the faster you can pay off with the right strategy, the better for you. When we look at our table, the being stuck in debt, making minimums versus being debt-free and investing. When you are stuck in debt, doing only the minimum payments, year 1, you are only paying off interest. Year 2, you are still paying off debt. Maybe the interest you have paid off, but you are still paying off the debt. You only become debt-free in year 3. And then between year 4 to year 10, because you are not investing, you have zero money that you have put aside for growth. But then when you are debt-free and you are investing, or you have paid off your debt faster using our method and then you start investing, in the first year, you are paying off your high interest debt. Then year 2, you are almost debt-free. And from year 3, you can actually start investing that 2,000 a month, and by year 5 you have over 60,000 which is invested. And when you look at 10 years at the 8% return that we have mentioned over the 10-year period, you have more than 366,000 in investments. That more than 366,000 is money that is either part of your bigger wealth building plan, or it's money that is part of your retirement, which you will live off once you are retired, or it is actually money that you can use towards some of your big life goals, some of your big financial goals. That could be money that goes towards you paying off your house or paying off your car or whatever bigger goals you have in life. So that is money that can be used for that. So this actually goes to show you the importance of, once you get in debt, try to get out as fast as possible. Try to make additional payments so that you can reduce the number of months or the number of years, and you can reduce and save on interest. And the faster you can get out of debt, you start immediately investing, and you'll be amazed to see the difference and the change in terms of your wealth building, because you will have more money than before compared to somebody who is just stuck in debt. So this video actually shows you that you lose so much money when you are stuck in debt, and the sooner you can get out, the better, because that is the only time you are able to build true wealth, because you are not giving free money away to credit providers, and you can actually channel that money towards your emergency fund, towards your life goals or financial goals, like your house, your car, your studies, your traveling, or whatever you want to do with your money. And that can also just be money that is going towards your retirement, so that you are taken care of in your retirement age. I do hope that this video has provided you some insight when it comes to high interest debt, and it also allowed you to look at your life and at your finances in a different light. And hopefully there are some things that you will take from here that you will be able to implement when it comes to your personal finances. I will see you in this video.